Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and welcome to Recording in Quarantine. I am at my boyfriend's house and the only place to record that is like semi-private is the downstairs bathroom. So we have wonderful visitors like Resolve Max in the background, so I hope you don't mind. This is the best I could do in the situation that we have. So I'm here today with my March wrap-up. In the month of March, I focused more on reading middle grade books. Obviously, there are some adult books that are sprinkled here and there. If you don't mind, I will be looking down at my laptop just because I haven't recorded a wrap-up in like 6 months. I'm obviously like very uncomfortable recording, but I'm trying to get back into it. It's quarantine time, baby. Like, we could do it, we can make some content, so here we are. In the month of March, I read 11 books, so we'll get right into that. I'm really happy with my progress, especially because March was really difficult. At the end of the month, I finished most of these books in the first half, but March like really took a slug down, as we know. We've all experienced. I'm going to stop talking about this. So the first book I read in the month of March was Everyday Angel. It's a collection of 3 books by Victoria Schwab. She wrote these way back when she first started writing. It was her first published work. And now I can officially say I've read everything Victoria Schwab has ever written, except for Addie LaRue, which is coming this year, and I'm super excited about it. It is a collection of 3 stories that follow an angel named Aria and her goal to come down to earth and help 3 different girls who have 3 different problems and try to help them overcome this. It's a really cute coming of age collection of stories, and I thought that it was really wonderful, and I'm really happy that I did pick it up. Originally I didn't want to. I was like, this is a middle grade series, but because it was middle grade March, I decided just to give it a go, and I'm really happy. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Victoria can absolutely do no wrong to me. I love her so much. So young me would have absolutely loved to have this book because it had so many lessons that I went through when I was in middle school or late elementary school here in Canada. I think each novel within this collection really encapsulates all kinds of issues that younger girls face, and it's really relatable, even though it has this fantastical element of a guardian angel within it. Schwab creates such like touching and really normal characters. Just her mind is incredible with what she can do, no matter the age range and no matter the length of stories. I think she does a really great job at keeping you completely engaged throughout the entire story. And although I am a 27-year-old woman and not a 12-year-old girl, I still found myself smiling at the lessons that are within this book. And this was such a nice and really quick read. Even though it's 3 books, it was like it went by like it was nothing, and I absolutely adored this. I'm so happy I read it. The next book I read was kind of like completely shifting gears in terms of how much I liked it. I read Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce. This follows a 13-year-old girl named Dane, and she has kind of like this special connection with animals. And when she's forced to leave home for a specific reason, she finds out that this knack that she has, the special connection that she has with animals, is actually magic. And she finds out that she can make animals obey her and gets kind of swept into the queen's court and helping them with the animals in the area. As you can see by this very shitty summary, I barely remember this book. I'm kind of really disappointed by it. It's probably one of my most disappointing reads so far this year because I only heard great things about Tamora Pierce. Every single adult that I know that read Tamora Pierce in their youth really puts her on a pedestal, and I was really looking forward to reading young fantasy books that have this element of feminism within them. But because I don't have this nostalgic feeling, I think that that really affected how I felt about Wild Magic. The main problem I had with this book was the writing style. It was so incredibly choppy and weird, and it felt so unnatural. And because I listened to this on audio, the problems with the writing were severely heightened due to this, because the way that the voice actor or the way that the story was being told, a voice actor can really only do so much. And if the writing feels awkward and choppy, it's going to come off that way when it's read out loud. Additionally, the narration style kind of jumps from character to character, and it doesn't really give you like an explanation or like some sort of indication that the narrative is shifting, and it would even shift within paragraphs. So it was really, really, really strange. I would pick up the physical copy of the book and like see if I just wasn't listening correctly, and it was literally in middles of paragraphs, and I found that to be really, really, really weird and an interesting choice because it made the narration very confusing. Of course, I do appreciate what Tamora Pierce did with the topics of feminism within this novel, and I do see the value in her books with younger generations, but I don't think that this was strong enough to bypass the many problems I had with the writing style. I was just incredibly bored and really disappointed by my first book by Tamora Pierce. Maybe I will pick up more from her, maybe try a different series, but I'm giving up on this Wild Magic series. It really was not for me. The next book I read in the month of March was an ARC I got from NetGalley, and it's Tigers Not Daughters by Samantha Mabry. This was freaking excellent. We shifted gears completely from Wild Magic. This was fucking fantastic. It's kind of this like King Lear, the Virgin Suicides twist. It basically follows the Torres sisters. They are 4 sisters who tried to escape from their home at the beginning of the novel, and you jump into more recent times where the oldest daughter, Anna, has died. And the sisters are coping with this, but also dealing possibly with the ghost of Anna in their home. First of all, this book was for me. King Lear is my favorite Shakespeare play, just because it follows this kind of father and sisters dynamic, which I absolutely love. I think Mabry did a fantastic job kind of taking this medieval King Lear setting and putting it subtly within a contemporary novel. Contemporary in quotations, because there's obviously a lot of use of magical realism within it, and I really liked the virgin suicide trope that was thrown into this. I didn't so much like that book, but I like how this was used in this novel. Part of the narration in the book comes from the boys who live across the street that idolize these girls, and unlike the virgin suicides, the problem that the Torres sisters have isn't romanticized by the young boys that live across the street. I also really adored the writing style. As you could probably guess, writing style is extremely important to me if I'm gonna, for the make or break of a novel. And I think Mabry has such like beautiful and encapsulating writing that really kept me engaged in the novel. The feelings of grief and the overall general feelings that the sisters had really like bled off the pages. It was wonderful to read. And despite this like magical realism element that's a part of the novel, the sisters, even Anna, felt so incredibly real. I felt like they were my friends. I felt like I was one of the sisters. I wanted to remain in this story for so long because the writing style was like wrapping me up in like a little burrito. And I think that that's my main problem with the book. The book is like only 250 pages or something like that, 288 pages. And I just feel like the ending was cut so abruptly because of the length. I think Mabry could have really developed the relationship more with the sisters, the relationship that with Anna as a ghost. And I think if that went on longer, the story would have been a full 5 stars for me. And I ended up giving it 4.5 because of this. I am just truly impressed by this debut, and I can't wait to get a physical copy because I absolutely want this on my shelves at home. The next book I read was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is the only other novel that I vividly remember reading at a specific time in my life. I'm pretty sure I was in like grade 3 or 4 because I remember the teacher who gave this to me after I mentioned loving Harry Potter. The characters to me are so real just because I visited this story so many times. There are things in this novel that kind of surprised me. I don't really remember them as vividly as I think I should. Like, I didn't know Mr. Tumnus had such a large role in the book. I thought he kind of only appeared in the beginning and that was it. Edmund and Lucy are the most developed characters in the book, and they're obviously the ones I clearly remember, and I really appreciate their character arcs. I think that their stories are absolutely more well done than their siblings. However, this story was like far too short. I think things could have been really developed. I understand that it's a story for children and he was kind of keeping it within these pages because it is for kids. There could have been way more details and length to certain scenes, especially the final battle at the end. I feel like it was like a paragraph. The big battle could have really used some development, especially because Peter and Susan, I think the older sister's name is, become like kings and queens along with Edmund and Lucy, and I feel like we should have seen more, or at least have a more impactful story for them than what we were given. I do see a lot of the religious undertones that Lewis puts in the novel that completely went over my head as a little Italian Catholic child. Still to this day didn't feel overtly in my face, but once again, I want to reiterate that I was raised in an Italian Catholic household, so a lot of things seem kind of obvious or normal to me than maybe someone who has not been raised with the church and Catholicism in mind. Overall, I still really enjoyed the reading experience. This book still makes me smile. There were still moments in the book that I found myself like feeling really nostalgic towards. So overall, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. The next book, I'll keep it short because this is really like only a book for me and probably other Montrealers, but it's Born Into It by Jay Baruchel. Jay Baruchel is you might know him from any of Seth Rogen's movies. He's like one of my favorite actors, and primarily because he is from Montreal, and I love that he's from Montreal. Jay Baruchel is a die-hard Montreal Canadiens fan, and if you want to know a little fact about me, I was born and raised in Montreal and I grew up a Bruins fan, and the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens are sworn enemies in the NHL. So I love seeing what Jay Baruchel has to say about hockey and the Canadiens in general. I think this novel is really for a specific subset of people. Either you like hockey, you were born in Montreal, you like hockey and you're born in Montreal, because this is a novel that's very, very, very embedded in Montreal culture, hockey culture, and it's something that I could really, really, really relate to. I think Jay Baruchel does a really good job with his comedy, and his comedy really shines in this novel. I found myself laughing. He has a very general comedic style that I absolutely adore, but I think what is developed in this book is Jay's emotional side and his connection to his parents and to his culture that I really appreciated. The only reason why I really couldn't give this a 5 out of 5 stars, besides the fact that he is a Montreal Canadiens fan, is that there were some moments in the book that I felt were really unnecessary. There was kind of a satirical TSN 690 call that I think if you don't live in Montreal, you don't even know what TSN 690 is. So this story, although I can appreciate the satirical aspect of it because, you know, you listen to TSN 690 after every hockey game, it just felt really weird and boring and misplaced within a book about Jay Baruchel and not really about Montreal sports reporting. I really don't think this book is for everyone at all. This book is a love story to Montreal and to hockey, and it really only relates to a subset of people. So I gave it a 3.5 stars. I then moved into a completely different story, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Yes, I don't know if I really need to explain what Peter Pan is. Basically, it's a classic novel about a boy who never grows up, and he visits a girl named Wendy and her brothers, and he whisks them away to Neverland. If you've watched the Disney film, it's kind of similar. I gave this a 3 stars, but upon thinking about it, I might give it a 2.5. I understand that this is a classic, but there were many things that I disliked and liked within the book. I think Barry's strongest point is making a character like Peter Pan. In this book, Peter Pan is so much weirder than the Disney film. He is so strange and so odd, and I really, really appreciated that J.M. Barrie took a chance and created such a fascinating, strange character. I really liked Tinkerbell and Captain Hook and all the things that I remember from the Disney film, and I really liked, although small, there was a discussion about mothers and losing their children that was really, really sad. That's kind of weaved into the novel, and I really appreciated that, and I think it was so well subtly done within the book that it made me quite sad at certain points. I really didn't jive with the fact that this novel is really a novel of its time. There were a lot of racist undertones, a lot of body shaming. I feel like really in the middle of the novel because although I love the atmosphere and the nostalgia feeling I have towards Peter Pan, I have to acknowledge that there were a lot of problems that made me extremely uncomfortable. It felt more lackluster than anything, and I think this classic fails, in my eyes, to compete with the Disney adaptation that I think was so much more better done for the age range that both the book and the movie are going for. So I gave it a 3 stars. I'll keep it at that. But it really feels like a 2.75 if I have to be picky. Next, I read The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This is another classic tale. It follows Dorothy. A twister comes to her Kansas home, and her dog are whisked away to this land of Oz where she meets a scarecrow, a tin man, and a lion, and they make their way on the Yellow Brick Road to go find the Wizard of Oz. We all know the song. I gave this one a 3.5 stars. I didn't write a review for it, which I am kicking myself now, obviously a month later after reading it. But I did appreciate the story. I really liked that each individual character finds their way within the novel. The cowardly lion discovers that he's not a coward, you know, that kind of thing. And I liked how they discovered it. I never watched the movies. I knew relatively the story, but I actually quite liked that Dorothy is kind of the hero of this tale. And I really appreciated the message that even though you might have these self-conscious issues within you, or that you don't think you're as great as those around you, it is still within you, and you can still find your way and still make your way down the Yellow Brick Road. I remember the writing to be really, really good. I listened to this on audio and it felt extremely magical. I know this is a series, but I don't think I'm gonna move past this first book. This is a classic, and I kind of want to keep the story the way I understand it. It doesn't interest me enough to go further into the story, and I will be reading Wicked, which is, I think, a reimagining of the Wicked Witch of the East, if I remember anything from pop culture. But yeah, so it interested me enough to pick up Wicked, but other than that, it was a cute story that I don't think I'll reread, but I appreciate for what it is, and I would actually encourage my kids to read it because of the wonderful message that it has. So 3.5 stars. And then I read probably my favorite book of the month, which was Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson. This is a book I read when I was probably in elementary school again. This follows it's kind of a Cinderella retelling. It's about a girl named Ella who, when she's born, one of her fairy godmothers gives her the gift of obeying everyone. So that's kind of the basis of the book, but really this was fucking like feminist. Ella kind of disobeys in any way she can. She'll be doing what you tell her to do, but she's doing it wrong. And if I read this book, I don't think there's a nostalgia factor here, but like maybe. But I think if I read this as an adult, I really, really, really would appreciate the feminist aspects of the book, that I still think this would be a 5 stars for me. This book is like so good, and Gail Carson's writing is really, really interesting and magical. And she keeps it like simple for the elementary school age that it is, but it feels so smart to me. Ella Enchanted has obviously stuck with me for years because it taught me to be unafraid to speak my mind and deciding like what is right for me. And I think that that is a super important message to give young girls. And it also throws in such a healthy and well-developed romance within this book. I'm fangirling again. I will cherish this book forever. It is a favorite for a freaking reason. I think if you like middle grade novels, you should read this. I think if you like feminist literature, you should read it. There are some minor issues with the book because, once again, it was written like, I think in the 90s, 1997. So yeah, like there's obviously like some little things there, but I think the big message behind the book is crucial for younger girls to read. And I absolutely love this. 5 out of 5 stars. I would reread this again. Then, in a quick turn of events, I was staring at my bookshelf and I saw one of the books that my friend gave me to read that I had decided I didn't want to, and boy do I regret this. I read Call Me By Your Name by, I can only say his name in French, because he has an accent aigu, and that's exactly, I can't read it any other way. So it's André Assimon. That's probably not how he says his name, but I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was almost perfect. I am completely shook by how good this book was. He has probably the most beautiful writing I have read this year, absolutely. Probably even in the last 3 years. I can't even believe how excellent this writing style was. I was in complete and utter amazement by the beauty and the atmosphere that he was able to create in this book. He captured the atmosphere of Italy so incredibly well. I really like the review that I wrote for this, so I kind of just want to read it. But I think to create such a captivating novel based on nostalgia and want, the writing has to have this magical feel to it. If you wanted to revert back to the feelings you had when you met your first love, this is it. He made me feel like I was falling in love again. I was Timothée Chalamet and I was falling in love. My one complaint for the novel, and it's like so minor, but I wish Oliver was more likable at the beginning of the novel. Oliver comes in and he's kind of this like rude, intelligent, breathtaking, amazing older student of his father's, and Elio is like completely enamored with him. And at the beginning I really didn't understand why, because I thought Oliver was such a piece of shit to Elio, and obviously Oliver's older, so he's kind of establishing these barriers with Elio that he breaks later on. I wish I understood Elio's obsession in the beginning, but once I was at the end, I was like hooked. I wanted them to be together, and I love how tragic this book ended. I think this book was so beautiful and so engaging. I highly recommend. I really thought I wasn't gonna like it, and oh boy, was I wrong. Then I read Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. Read this with my book club. It's kind of a Harry Potter inspired book. Obviously, this young, miserable kid is picked up by a strange man who won't tell her what's going on, but whisked away to this magical world where she has to enter trials to get into a school called the Wonder Society. Morgan, her whole entire life, has been being kind of bred to die. Everything that goes wrong in her town is because of her. She's identified as like this cursed child, and this all ends when she's taken away to Nevermore. The problem I had with this book is very minor. It took me a really long time to get into it. It could be the timing. I read this at the end of March, or just that the beginning was kind of slow to develop, slow to really get into the meat of the novel. But once I was in, I was completely hooked with this book. I really liked Morgan as a main character because I really like this like dark, brooding character who becomes like good. And I really like that Morgan was kind of this embodiment of like this little emo girl who kind of has life kicking her in the guts, and she gets back up and she competes in these trials. The magic system was a bit difficult to understand, and I think as the series goes on, I'll grow to appreciate the magic system more. I think I will be able to like fall into the novel much faster because I already have this background of understanding the world and the magic system. It did remind me a lot of Harry Potter, but I think in the best ways. There was the trial, there was getting into the magical school that I will always love. I especially love the friendships in this novel, and I can't wait for them to develop. The reveal at the end of the novel, which is like the last 100 pages or so, was so incredibly interesting. That was when I was like, oh shit, this is a great book. I think Townsend did a fantastic job with her debut novel, and I'm really excited to continue the series because that reveal was absolutely shocking to me and amazing, and I'm very excited. And then after that book that really lifted my spirits at the end of March, I read a book that really disappointed me. A lot of these middle grades, I hear about them like ever since I was that age, and now I'm getting to a time where I can buy my own books and kind of read what I want to read, and they just like let me down because I don't have that nostalgia factor. But the book I'm talking about is A Wrinkle in Time by another French name, so Madeleine Langle. I gave this 2 stars. I'm sorry to every single person who likes this book because I know it has fans, and I know objectively this is a good book. I knew from the beginning, like I said, more often than not in this book, me and the author's writing style, we were not clicking. We were not getting along. There were a lot of things in the writing style and the plot of the novel that just didn't make sense to me at all. I also felt like for a novel that's so incredibly scientific and kind of needs you to suspend belief, but also provide reasons to suspend this belief, like I don't mind suspending belief as long as it makes sense in the world. Nothing made sense in this book. And especially the last 100 pages, they were so freaking short, and all the scenes were short, and we were jumping everywhere, and nothing made sense, and things were just being done for no reason. Things were like half explained and didn't flow properly. I really wanted to enjoy this book, but there were so many things that brought me down. And I liked the characters, I liked the family dynamic that was in this book, but everything else just really like bogged that dynamic with a lot of noise that I just couldn't come out of this novel any happier than I was. Those are the books I read in the month of March. If you read any of these books, let me know down below. If you think I'm wrong, argue with me in the comments, because I love to debate. Give this a like, give this a dislike, subscribe, click the notification bell. I don't really care. I don't know how to end these things, and I will see you next time.